all.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
National Orientation Agency is, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of oil-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, it's another beautiful day, another great opportunity every day. It's just like a new opportunity depending on how you use it. And we've had this opportunity this morning to discuss issues related to business, finance, national development, and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. Our focus today is on the stock market. We're going to look at the trends. We're going to look at the investment opportunities. For those of you who are thinking of investing, you have to look the way of the stock market, and that's why you have to stay with us today, because we're prepared to give you the best of programs and programming. We hope that as you spend the next 3 hours with us, we will inform and educate you. We want you to get set because we are ready for you. Whatever you have with you, maybe your cup of tea, whatever is your preference, get set, because it's going to be a productive ride this morning. All right, let's set the ball rolling with news update, and we'll switch over to the news studio now, where Adesha is standing by to take us around the world.
Good morning and welcome to the morning news update right here on Souk News. I'm Adesua Iramoseli. First, the major headlines. Federal government to begin Malabu oil exploration. Police Service Commission gives update on ongoing recruitment. Lagos revolutionizes tax collection with automated fiscal system. And on the foreign scene, Angola's central bank raises key interest rate amid economic challenges. Germany implements emergency spending freeze after court ruling. We'll take a breather, and when we return, we give you the news in full. Stay with us. Glad to know you're still with us. Now in the news. In an effort to boost Nigeria's crude oil output, the federal government has expressed its readiness to resume production. at the disputed OPL 245, also known as the Malabo oil well. Similarly, Eni, the Italian company involved in an oil field dispute with the Nigerian government, has temporarily... Let's take that again. In an effort to boost the Nigerian crude oil output, the federal government has expressed its readiness to resume production at the disputed OPL 245, also known as the Malabo oil well. Similarly, Eni, the Italian company involved in an oil field dispute with the Nigerian government, has temporarily suspended arbitrary proceedings to facilitate discussions on converting the license from prospecting to mining. This development follows the country's decision to withdraw civil claims worth $1.1 billion against Eni related to corruption allegations in the OPL 245 deal. The OPL 245 oil block, believed to contain around 9 billion barrels of crude oil, represents a significant opportunity for Nigeria to increase its oil production after 25 years. In another development, the Police Service Commission says it has received a total of 547,774 applications for recruitment into the Constable Cadre of the Nigerian Police Force. The recruitment portal, which opened on October 15, 2023, will close on November 26, 2023. Out of the total applications received, 358,900 applicants have successfully qualified for the next stage of the recruitment process, which involves physical exams, credential verification, medical assessments, and rigorous background checks. Notably, 84,606 applicants were rejected due to being over the specified age limit of 18 to 25 years. Kaduna State has the highest number of applicants with 40,272, while Anambra State has the lowest with 1,664. Anambra State, while expressing satisfaction with the overwhelming interest shown by Nigerian youth, the chairman of the Police Service Commission, Dr. Solomon Arase, urged the youth of the southeastern region to reconsider their disinterest in police work and refrain from associating with anti-government criminal groups. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, the news continues. No, I'm not using from. Welcome back. You're still watching the news update on Souk News. The Minister of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, says the country is set to generate thousands of jobs in Nigeria through innovative initiatives. During a meeting, the Senior Director of Global Licensing and Activation of SpaceX and Rian held on the sidelines of the International Telecommunications Union World Radio Communication Conference in Dubai. Tijani noted that Nigeria is now Starlink's largest market in Africa, thereby stressing the importance of connecting unserved and underserved Nigerians. He expressed the possibility of creating numerous jobs through initiatives like a certified installer maintenance program for Starlink and collaboration with local hardware startups to produce repeater boxes. Still in the communication sector, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communication Commission, Dr. Aminu Maida, has stressed the importance of quality of service for telecoms operators, adding that the Commission will not tolerate any excuses in delivering high-quality services. During an interactive session with industry operators in Lagos, Maida stressed the need to bridge access gaps and improve coverage and connectivity, particularly in rural areas, through the expansion of broadband infrastructure. He emphasized the importance of providing consumers with value for their money and noted that the tech industry must strive for excellence in delivering services. The NCC boss also expressed his commitment to creating a favorable investment environment with leveraging the Universal Service Provision Fund, USPF, to bridge the digital divide in Nigeria. Moving on, the Nigerian Security and Exchange Commission, SEC, is set to launch a new e-dividend portal on November 30, 2023, as part of efforts to combat the challenge of unclaimed dividends. The portal aims to simplify the e-dividend mandate process, enhance effective efficiency, and reduce occurrence of unclaimed dividends. SEC is also working on an identified management system to prevent the accumulation of new unclaimed dividend, showing the commitment to address the root cause of this issue. The introduction of the new portal is poised to streamline e-dividend mandate process and provide a more efficient and user-friendly system for shareholders to claim their dividends. This move is expected to result in a reduction in unclaimed dividend, fostering more transparent and investor-friendly environment. By simplifying the dividend claim process, the Commission will enhance investor confidence and trust in the financial system. Away from that, the United States government has announced that Nigeria and other African countries will receive over $450 million in financing through the Digital Transformation with Africa DTA initiative. The initiative, launched by President Biden in December 2022, aims to expand digital access, strengthen U.S.-Africa commercial relations, enhance digital literacy, and support digital enabling environments in Africa. The U.S. Consul General in Nigeria, Will Stevens, noted that the initiative focuses on collaboration with Africa, as the U.S. government believes that Africa contributes significant value globally. The initiative has already received a $350 million investment from U.S. government, with plans for additional investment to develop an inclusive and resilient digital ecosystem in Africa. On tax-related matters, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Zach Adedeji, has urged non-domestic companies involved in shipping crude oil from Nigeria to adhere strictly to the country's tax laws. This was revealed at a workshop organized by FIRS in collaboration with the Oil Producer Trade Session, OPTS, to address challenges related to the taxation of non-resident shipping companies. Adedeji noted noted that the ongoing compliance exercise on foreign shipping companies is part of broader measures to expand the tax net and boost government revenue without disrupting their operations, and assured international companies that FIRS is focused on ensuring compliance with existing tax laws and not on disrupting their activities. Furthermore, the FIRS boss underscored the government's goal of increasing Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio to 18% in the next 3 years without imposing additional taxes, but by broadening the tax net. In the same vein, the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, LIRS, has introduced an upgrading process for the collection of hotel occupancy and restaurant consumption tax in the state. The new collection process, known as the Eco-Fiscal System EFS, is an automated invoicing solution designed to bring about a change in the collection of consumption taxes in Lagos State. According to the executive chairman of LIRS, Ayodele Shabur, the model will impact the operations of hotels, event centers, restaurants, bars, and related facilities in Lagos, streamlining processes, enhancing efficiency, and simplifying compliance for businesses in the hospitality sector. He added that the model is specifically tailored to address the challenges associated with manual collection, such as errors, penalties, and increased costs. We go on a short break. When we return, we'll give you more stories. Welcome back. Do engage us and follow us on all our various social media platforms. We value your feedback. Still in Nigeria, the Ebonyi state government has announced its plans to return all mission schools to their original owners by the end of the year. Governor Francis Nwofuru made this announcement during a visit by the Catholic Bishop of Abakaliki Diocese, Most Reverend Dr. Peter Nworie Chukwu. Governor Nwofuru acknowledged the important role played by the Catholic Church in ensuring quality education and directed the Commissioner for Primary and Secondary Education and the Attorney General of the state to begin the process of handing over the mission schools to their owners. While emphasizing the need for the church to focus on its primary duty of preaching salvation rather than getting involved in politics, the governor expressed his administration's commitment to working closely with the churches, including the Catholic Church. In addition to the handover mission school, Governor Nwofuru announced plans to send promising graduates abroad for education and then have them return to teach in local schools. The government intends to send 100 first-class and second-class graduates to their preferred country for higher education, while also sponsoring 300 individuals to pursue their master's degree in Nigeria's higher institution. Away from Nigeria, following the recent restructuring of Ghana's debt, which impacted investors' appeal, the West African country has secured its annual loan to finance cocoa purchases at higher interest rate. In the aftermath of the debt overall, international banks have committed to providing the country's cocoa board, the industry regulator, with an $800 million loan for cocoa procurement from farmers. The term of the deal revealed the interest rate of nearly 8%, marking the most expensive facility the board has obtained since the inception of its annual loans in the 1992 to 1993 fiscal year. The loan's higher interest rate shows the challenges the country faces in the aftermath of its debt restructuring as investors reassess the risk associated with the country's financial commitment. The $800 million loan intended for cocoa purchases is a critical aspect of supporting the country's vital cocoa industry. Still in Africa, in response to the persistent challenges posed by currency depreciation and a reduction in fuel subsidies, Angola's central bank has made a move by raising its key interest rate for the first time in over 2 years. This decision comes as the nation, which is the second largest oil producer on the continent, grapples with the impact of these economic factors on inflation. Governor Manuel Tiago Dias, leading the central bank's monetary policy committee, announced the decision to increase the benchmark interest rate from 17% to 18%. This marks a notable departure from the previous stance. Having maintained the rates in the two meetings preceding this adjustment, the move reflects the central bank's approach to address the economic challenges stemming from currency fluctuations and the reduction of fuel subsidies. And finally, in a decisive response to the recent ruling of Germany's top court, the country has implemented an emergency spending freeze, marking a crucial development in the ongoing budget crisis that has sent ripples through Europe's largest economy. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government finds itself in a race against time, diligently assessing the far-reaching implications of the Constitutional Court's judgment. This decision has cast doubt on the financing of special funds amounting to hundreds of billions of euros, which exist outside the confines of the regular federal budget. The imposition of the spending freeze shows the government's commitment to navigating these budgetary challenges with agility and resolve. As Germany, a key economic powerhouse in Europe, grapples with the ramifications of the court's decision, there is an evident determination to address the intricacies of these special funds and ensure financial stability. And that's it on News Update this morning. Many thanks for staying with us. Stay tuned for more analysis on early exchange. I'm Adesua Eramoseli. Thanks for watching.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
National Orientation Agency is, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Nigeria and globally to look at business stories, national development. I'm not here alone, and right away from all the way from Rwanda, I'm being joined by Sam Oruoje, Director of Research for Femi Watch Media Limited. Sam, glad to have you join us on this news analysis this morning.
Good morning, Femi. My pleasure to be here.
Right, glad to hear from you. How are you today? How is Rwanda?
Great. It's just that it's raining here. Well, we thank God.
Oh, great. All right, let's start with the first story, which has to do with the plan by the federal government to begin oil exploration, talking about Malibu oil, which has been controversial over the year. You know, the oil blocks, you know, there have been a lot of controversies as regards the issuance of the license for the oil blocks. You know, precisely the license was issued, you know, about 25 years ago to that company, Malibu Oil and Gas Limited. For the past 25 years, it's been difficult for us to, you know, see the impact of that oil blocks, and it's been estimated that, you know, the oil block has a reserve of about 9 billion barrels of crude oil. I'm wondering if
conducting mining today, solid minerals as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
I apologize for that. We are here now, and now it's time for us to continue with the news analysis. Earlier, I introduced our, guest analyst, who is also an in-house analyst, who is joining us all the way from Rwanda, Sam Oruwije. So we're talking about the plan by the federal government to explore Malibu oil, which has been, hasn't been productive for the past 25 years because of the controversies, and now the federal government is ready to maximize that oil block. You agree with me that several experts have spoken in this regard, that there's a need for Nigeria to scale up its local, crude oil production. What's your take on this?
I think finally the controversy around the Malibu oil between Dan Itete and the Abacha family is finally put to rest. The Tinubu administration is poised to exploiting over 9 billion barrels that is estimated by exploration geologists. This, again, will improve on our production output. And I think this is a welcome development. And once this is sustained, then production output will increase, and that will translate into more revenue, particularly in this time when the federal government is challenged in terms of its revenue stream. To that extent, let's see how the government can walk its talk with a view to bringing to bear the production quota from the OML 245, as it's popularly called.
Let's look at some of the lessons for Nigeria, looking at the controversy that trailed this oil block, the argument here and there, the litigation. What are the lessons inherent for Nigeria, and what do you expect now that the federal government has shown readiness to maximize this oil block? What kind of approach are you expecting this time around?
Number one is due diligence in terms of the federal government issues operating license for the oil wells must be critically looked at. And then two, international measure that bid for some of those things was equally be scrutinized. To that extent, once these due diligence are done, then the controversy in terms of the allocation of the juicy oil wells, as they are formally called, the case will not be there. To that extent, the federal government must be up and doing in terms of doing real technical due diligence in terms of those who operate some of these oil fields. All
right. I strongly believe that there's a need for Nigeria to also come up with the right policy. I learned that there are some international oil companies that are taking interest in, in taking over the oil block. What do you think should guide this kind of, exploration and then awarding this oil block to this kind of IOC companies? What should guide, the guideline, the framework? What kind of expectation are you expecting from the oil company that are going to take over? Because you're talking about the oil block that can produce about 9 billion barrels per day.
Yeah, I think the issues are very clear. There's already a regulatory framework. The Petroleum Industry Act is a framework that guides the upstream, the midstream, and the downstreams. So once the regulatory agencies are up and doing, then these issues of controversy of the federal government going to court with the people that originally had the license will not be there. So essentially, every regulatory agency, both upstream, midstream, and downstream, must be up and doing in terms of their regulatory responsibility, so that international oil measures are equally regulated in line with the existing framework that guide the Petroleum Industry Act.
All right, let's move on to the next story, where the executive chairman of the Nigeria Communication Commission has stressed the importance of quality of service for telecom operators, adding that the commission will not tolerate any excuses in delivering high-quality service. You know, the issue of high-quality service when it comes to telecom in Nigeria has been of concern. You know, there are complaints about poor quality in some areas due to poor signal, you know, in those areas. Now, attention is being drawn to rural areas where you have more of this problem. And now the executive chairman has given his word that they are doing everything to ensure that they improve the quality of telecom operation in Nigeria. Let me have your take on, you know, the quality of, you know, telecom operation in Nigeria. What's your own observation and what's your own assessment?
The executive vice chairman of the NCC pronouncement in terms of service quality is in order, but what is of critical note is that the infrastructure must be put in place to be able to sustain the operation of the telecom industry. It's when these infrastructures are improved upon that you can talk about service quality delivery. So it behoves on government to sustain infrastructural development in that sector, then it can regulate properly on how service delivery can be affected by the operator. So it's a two-way traffic, in my view. The government must improve on its infrastructure efficiency. Then telecom operators must equally improve on their service delivery. And particularly in terms of extending infrastructure to rural communities that will equally scale up activities in terms of small and medium enterprise.
Well, when you look at this kind of statement, we've been hearing this kind of statement for years. You've seen, you know, NCC, you know, acting like the big brother for that sector. But you still see this problem, they persist. And so what do you expect differently from NCC this time? Because it's not the first time they're going to issue a press release that it's not going to be business as usual, yet you find this problem, they still linger. So what do you think they should do differently to ensure that compliance are being done?
No, I think what is important is the leadership. Once the leadership is up and doing, and they are strategic about their regulatory function, then to that extent, you are able to bring operator to book when there's an infraction into some of the regulatory framework that are not respected by operator. But like I mentioned earlier, the government has the responsibility to provide the infrastructure. And once those infrastructures are provided, then you can bring to bear your regulatory stick when people do not provide quality service.
All right, I strongly feel the NCC boss, you know, the NCC as a commission, they need to do more because Nigeria needs to get value for their money, you know, in terms of quality service, especially for the remote areas in the villages where some of this infrastructure are not too available for people to take advantage of it. So let's hope what the new boss will come up with. He has spoken, and let's see that the actions that will follow will translate to productivity. All right, let's move on to the next story, which is about the Nigerian Security Exchange Commission, which is set to launch an online portal for people to be able to combat the challenge of unclaimed dividends. You know, this has been of concern too over the years, unclaimed dividends. If you look at the bottleneck involved for some people who have invested in the stock market, shareholders, you know, getting their dividends. But now, to tackle this age-long challenge, the Nigerian Security Commission is unveiling an online platform, which is to make it easier, you know, bring efficiency into the claim of dividends, to make it easier for shareholders to be able to get their dividends. What do you think will be the impact of these, you know, in few days to come?
The deadline set by SEC is 30th of November. I think in another breath, this is a welcome development. But to what extent can SEC sustain this e-portal system that can ease the claims of dividends? I think e-dividend ecosystem is very important because there are a lot of unclaimed dividends for those investors who are unable to claim. So when you have an e-commerce ecosystem, that will bring about efficiency in terms of collections of dividends. And once these dividends are collected by the owners, it will impact in terms of finances because once people have this dividend claim, then that will improve on their purchasing power and their finances. So it's a win-win situation both for the Security Exchange Commission and investors who find it difficult to get their dividend, which is a return on their investment in the stock market.
All right. Do you think it will be necessary for the Security and Exchange Commission to publicize or do what I call public awareness so that people can take advantage of this product? Because it is one thing for them to unveil, it's another thing for people who need the service to be aware of this. Do you think there's need for, public enlightenment and orientation so that people will get to get familiar with this portal?
I agree with you absolutely, Femi. Education is critical in terms of providing information to the investing public. But what is important in terms of the education is that most of the investors should be encouraged to dematerialize their stock certificates into the Nigerian clearing system. Once they are dematerialized and they are into the clearing system, then the ecosystem will be sustained more meaningfully and efficiency will be brought to the collection of dividend warrants.
All right, that's great. Now let's look at what the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service is saying. He's urging non-domestic companies involved in shipping crude oil from Nigeria to adhere strictly to the country's tax laws, talking about payment of taxes. The Federal Inland Revenue asked the statutory to, be in charge of that, and now is giving this directive to local shipping companies to come up with their tax payment. The issue of taxes has been of debate. The reason why taxes has to be paid, is statutory and is obligatory for every citizen, especially for players in the business sector. And this time around, the directive is coming to, ship owners, those who are playing in the shipping sector, to ensure that they adhere to payment of taxes. What's your reaction to this directive from the Federal Inland Revenue Service?
Again, Femi, this is welcoming, but what is important is that as the federal government trying to improve on the tax revenue safety net, there's a need to push forward the agenda of how these companies can remit their tax. So the operators within that industry must equally be responsible in trying to pay their tax obligations. And once these tax obligations are paid to the government, then the government can invest those taxes in terms of social infrastructure that will benefit everybody.
All right. The Commission is also planning to reduce the tax GDP ratio, to 18% in the next 3 years. Do you think this is ambitious? Do you think this can be realized in the next 3 years? The plan is not to also burden Nigerians, but to expand, the tax net in order to be able to meet this target. Are you optimistic that under the leadership of the President Chairman, FRSC can meet this target in the next 3 years?
I think it's possible. It's a good target. There are issues with tax collections. Once there's a strategic focus from the leadership of the Federal Inland Revenue, then these are sustainable. Again, what is important?
Oh, we seem to have lost connection with Sam there. We're looking at the issue of, taxes in Nigeria. You're aware recently that the president came up with some reforms where he has to institute a presidential committee headed by Taiwo Oyedele, an expert when it comes to the issue of taxes. And so the federal government is serious this time around to ensure that the bottleneck, trailing the issue of collection of taxes, the issue of multiple taxes, double taxation, and to do with the issue of, some of the inefficiencies that are trailing at the tax laws in Nigeria. We're quite optimistic that this presidential committee will do a good job, to see that Nigeria can be better when it comes to the issue of taxation. The issue is Nigerians are ready to pay tax, even though to some that is debatable. But the issue is if the money or taxes that are being paid, if Nigerians observe that there's more of accountability, transparency in the system, they will be encouraged to pay more. And that's why the president has considered this committee to see what they can do differently and give it to Taiwo Oyedele and his committee, because he has been doing this for years and they've been going around Nigeria, to interact with stakeholders, to critical stakeholders, the locals, those at the international level, to see what can be done differently. And they've been coming up with several submissions to ensure that the issue of taxes are being tackled in Nigeria. It's of concern to every business owner in Nigeria, investors, even for those who are in the diaspora to think of investing in Nigeria. They must be rest assured that your tax laws are in right shape. All right, Alan Sam is back with us. Sam, please go ahead with your thoughts on the issue of taxes in Nigeria. Please go ahead and...
All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Femi?
Yes, clearly, I can hear you.
Okay, the point I was trying to make before the glitch is that it's possible to achieve that once the focus is there. I think what is key is the extent to which we can improve on the safety net in terms of tax collection. Nigerians are willing, like you mentioned earlier, but what will help us more is the government must encourage an e-government ecosystem that will aid the collection of revenue. To that extent, we can find a way to boost the revenue coming from tax, which will be used for the greater good of Nigerians.
All right, earlier I talked about the tax reforms committee put together by the president, headed by Taiwo Oyedele. I would like you to assess some of their moves in recent times, and what do you think they should do differently to ensure that the bottleneck trailing tax laws in Nigeria, or the issue of taxation in Nigeria, becomes a thing of the past?
The laws are there. I think the challenge is more of compliance and the collection mechanism in terms of how tasks are remitted. For example, I understand in Rwanda, for example, most of the collections are done online. That has enhanced the efficiency in terms of revenue collection and revenue assurance in terms of what government gets. Once these are done through an e-commerce mechanism, that will aid the collection. So what is key going forward is that we must improve on e-commerce and e-governance towards the collections of taxes, so that those revenues are, the regulatory framework in terms of tax laws are adequate. And the Oyedele Commission has done very well, and particularly in terms of the holiday window that were given by the federal government, be able to make adjustments so that people can pay their tax appropriately.
Okay, for those who still feel it necessary to pay taxes, what do you think the federal government can do now, like incentives if possible, to encourage them to pay taxes? Or what do you think can be done? Is it the issue of trust, or the issue of the larger distrust that have existed between Nigerian government and its citizenry? So what should be done differently this time around to attract more tax payment, especially from the informal sector?
essentially is good governance. Once the average citizen sees that his taxes are working in terms of government deliverable to them, then people will be more encouraged to pay their tax. But what is important in my view is that the government must find a way to improve on the e-governance or e-government ecosystem that will sustain transparency, accountability. And once these are done, then the citizens will trust the government in terms of the collection model and in terms of how these resources are deployed for citizens, for the common good.
All right, what a way to wrap up this news and analysis. Sam, I must appreciate you for spending time with us out of your busy schedule. You deem it necessary to create time for us this morning. We must appreciate you for your commitment and your brilliant thoughts. Thank you so much. We hope to have you back in the studio soon.
Thank you very much, Femi.
All right, enjoy your stay in Rwanda.
My pleasure, thank you.
All right. All right, it's the Early Exchange. Let's go on a short break. When we return, our major story, our major big story, our conversation for today will kick off. Stay with us.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
National Orientation Agency is, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, glad to have you join us for our big conversation today. Our big story today has to do with the stock market. We want to look at the trends and investment opportunities when it comes to the stock market in Nigeria. For those of you individuals, group of persons who are looking for how to invest, in the right stock when it comes to the Nigerian stock market, this is the right time for you to join us in this discussion. With the current capitalization of the Nigerian exchange market is being estimated to be around 39.1 trillion naira, which is a juicy investment for anyone who wants to look into that direction. Joining us via Zoom is Gbadegeshin Omotayo, a chartered accountant and a tax practitioner. He joins us this morning to provide more insights on the market trends and investment opportunities when it comes to stock market in Nigeria. Gbadegeshin, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning. Okay, if you can hear me, Gbadegeshin, okay, we don't have him yet. We're hoping to have him connected to us. All right. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll reconnect with our guest and then the conversation will kick off. Stay with us. All right. Alance, the guest is back. Mr. Gbadegeshin, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. What a privilege to be your host this morning. We're looking at the stock market in Nigeria. To start with, I would like you to give us a background into some of the trends and looking at the investment opportunities when it comes to the stock market in Nigeria. Maybe that should be a way for us to start this conversation.
Thank you very much. The capital market in Nigeria is a very strategic resource. It's a resource that without it, a nation cannot develop. It is an instrument for fund accumulation and distribution. It's an instrument for fund acquisition and distribution. It is an instrument for investors to put their money in productive areas and earn return on it. The capital market is also a resource allocator, pulling funds from areas of surplus and putting it into areas where they are needed, that can be deficit areas. For the government, it provides a veritable source of funding, but the government can use the capital market to a great advantage, as we have seen in the federal government and state government bond, Lagos State, Benue State, a lot of states like that have benefited from the capital market. We can see it from the government perspective as per the raising of funds through the issuance of sukuk bonds. We can also see it as a method of government trying to maybe privatize some of its organization and then telling those people that are buying them that they should put them on the capital market, thus improving the market capitalization of the Nigerian capital market. Nigeria capital market is a very strong component of the Nigerian economy, and therefore a lot of efforts are put into ensuring its development. And in this regard, government agencies like regulators like the Security and Exchange Commission has done a lot over the years to ensure the development of the Nigerian capital market, licensing various operators and monitoring how they are performing. putting in intervention policies to ensure that the exchange, the Nigerian capital market is developing. Apart from SEC, we now have the NGX, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, that has now been privatized. And that is a sort of a marketplace whereby you can go for fresh fund in a primary issue. Let's assume that you are approaching the capital market for the first time. You can go for a primary issue. And if you are already a shareholder in all these public quoted company, you can sell your shares as a secondary issue. And that is why there are experts that have been trained through the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers that are stockbrokers that actually help in all these areas. And in the capital market, there are a lot of operators and facilitators. You will find the stockbrokers there. You will find the capital market analysts there. You will find the investment analysts there. You will find the fund managers there. You will find the trustees there. You will find fund managers, a lot of operators, all of them working together in the network to ensure that the capital market, which is the other hand of the money market. The money market is the market for short-term funds, while the capital market is the market for long-term funds. And there are stock exchanges all over the world, all of them being part of the major fulcrum of their respective economies. You have the Hang Seng, you have the New York Stock Exchange, and even the capital market does not stop at shares alone. You find out that we now have other exchanges, specialized exchanges like commodity exchanges. Nigeria has a commodity exchange, although it is still fledgling, but one day to go to that level of organization like the CBOT, that's the Chicago Board of Trade, and it will play a major role in development of agriculture and commodity marketing in Nigeria. You also have the Futures Exchange. That one is the market that trade in exchange traded futures. That is contracts that actually put obligation and reward at a future date. And that is one of the methods of trying to manage risk by trying to enter into forward and futures contract. There's an exchange for that. Then there are also markets for options. Options are the privilege given to an holder of that contract to actually exercise or not to exercise his right at a given point in future, depending upon the way the wind of the price is blowing. So you find out that apart from shares, we have commodity, we have futures, we have options as part of the instruments that are traded on the capital market. The Nigerian capital market is still developing, and there is a lot of hope based on the recent trends of capitalization. But a lot needs to be done in order to ensure that the market actually becomes one of the biggest in the world. With a population of over 220 million naira, and Nigeria does not have any reason not to have a very, very buoyant capital market that will be highly internationalized. And that is why we are not happy about certain stories of companies pulling out of Nigeria or pulling out of the stock exchange, like the GSK issue, like the Union Bank delisting, and things like that. It brings down the capital market. SEC has done a lot to ensure transparency in the market. Nigerian Stock Exchange has done a lot to ensure market confidence. A lot still needs to be done. Companies that are in buoyant section, like the telecommunication, should be made to get listed, like MTN, like Airtel. NNPC should get listed. A lot of other companies should get listed so that Nigerians can have a broad-based ownership. It's not that the ownership of all these juicy companies in the economy are in private hand. Everybody must have an option of holding an NNPC share or an MTN share, because they are all contributing towards the development of these companies. So by and large, there are still a lot of opportunity for Nigeria Stock Exchange to grow. There are still a lot of exchanges, and the regulators must be given kudos for doing a very good job in the regulation of the market and ensuring that the market expands. Kudos must also be given to those that are training experts, like the Chartered of Stockbrokers, Institute of Capital Market Analysts, Institute of Fund, Association of Fund Managers, and things like that. We still need a lot in this area. And capital markets should be introduced into the curriculum of even from secondary school. Let them know a lot about the capital market so that they
All
can
right,
position
for
themselves
those who
that in the near
are
future
just
we are
new
going to grow this
when it
market.
comes to stock investment, you know, they are for new players or new entrants into the sector. I would like you to educate them on what they need to do when it comes to investing in stock market. Take them to the processes involved, the documentation, and the sensitive areas they need to work on to ensure that they get the proper investment done.
Thank you very much. When you are talking of new entrants, are you talking of investors that want to buy shares on the exchange or those that want to raise money from the exchange?
Let's look
Because
at
there
the
are
both
people
ends.
that
So
there
would
are
you
companies.
do a proper
Okay.
education when it comes to these two players?
If you want to go into the capital market to raise funds, there are two approaches to it. The first one is that, are you already an organized company trading like what GTB did when it came to the market? GTB was already existing as a major bank, but wants the shares to be quoted. In that instance, all GTB needed to do then was to go by introduction. Introduction means that I have my shares. The shareholders are holding the shares, but they just want it to be listed. In that instance, it is an offer by introduction. Then we have the one that we call offer by subscription, which now means that you are going into the market to raise money. And all these rules and regulations are not cast in stone. They change from time to time, and you have to go to the rule book of the Security and Exchange Commission, because number one, you have to register your operations, that capital raising operation with SEC, that's the Security and Exchange Commission. You have to pay certain fees and you have to get certain documentation. Because even if you go and look at the Company and Law Matters Act, there are requirements that you must have as an incorporated company. You can't go to the capital market without being an incorporated entity. And then for you to now become a publicly traded company, there are minimum number of shareholders you must have in order to be a public company, because a private company has very, very little number of shareholders, while when you are talking about a quoted company, at least must be not less than 50. You have to go and register with SEC, obtain all the information that is required, documentation you have to submit, and you can't do this without financial advisors. Those financial advisors are mainly stockbrokers and other advisors. You have to have your lawyers. You have to prepare a prospectus. That prospectus is a body of information that investors that want to buy your shares will get all the information they need, and it has a legal implication because you cannot lie there. So in order to protect yourself in the prospectus, you put a lot of caveats there, and you make yourself come clear. You put information about your incorporation, about the memo and activity, memorandum and articles. You put information there about your activities, about your directors, their consent to be directors. You put there the story of what you want to do. How much shares do you want to raise in the market? What are the denomination of the shares? Mostly now you go to the stock exchange, the par value of most of the shares that are listed are 50 kobo per share. Par value is the face value of the share. It's different from market value, because market value now is when your shares start trading, the expectation of the market and their perception of your operations and potentials will determine how people will say that they want to, the price they will place on your share. 50 kobo share we have seen can be sold for 200 naira. We also have companies that have 50 kobo par value share trading at 40 kobo or even 30 kobo, lower than that. So when you package all this information are available when you get to SEC, you can get a copy of a prospectus. When you put all your financials down, historically, if you have been operating, forecast, and historically, if you have been operating, forecast alone if you have not been operating. And that one will have to be attested to by a reporting accountant that will look at all those figures and then put a report there that we have examined all these things, and people can rely. Because if any of these professionals lie or they make a mistake, that in law will be called a misrepresentation. And we are talking about misrepresentation. It is nearly a criminal offense that people can go to jail for. And in that instance, you have to look at the case of Edley Bryan versus Ella and Partners, because misrepresentation can be innocent, it can be fraudulent, it can be innocent misrepresentation or fraudulent or negligent misrepresentation. And the implication of all this and are left to the court to decide. But professionals and the issuer must ensure that all the facts they put in the prospectus are factual, they are not misleading, and they cannot. Well, if you mislead any investors, they can come back to claim against you for the damage they have suffered. So that the key document there is the prospectus. And there are investment advisors, like I said, stockbrokers, consultants, issuing house. Because if you want to issue shares, you need apart from the stockbrokers, you need an issuing house. That issuing house are financial advisors licensed by SEC to assist companies to raise funds. And all this documentation will be packaged by an issuing house. We have a lot of respected issuing house, Greenwich, Apple. I'm not advertising for anybody, but we have a lot of respected issuing houses in Nigeria with cognate experience in fundraising. In relation to documentation, packaging, and things like that, your issuing house is very, very critical in whatever you are going to do. And that is why you now find out that even if you want to raise money, apart from offer by introduction and offer by subscription, we have offer for sale. Offer for sale is a situation whereby an existing organization that already has its shares now want to offer some of the shares for sale. That's why I find out that companies at times will have a combination of offer by subscription and offer for sale. Offer for sale, existing share, people that are already holders of shares in that private company want to offload their shares to the public so that they'll be able to gain from selling those shares at higher prices than par value. When you now find out that the capital market is the one that determines the mechanism for determining the price of shares, there are what you call over-the-counter market for unquoted shares, because at the end of the day, even if you are talking about buying shares at Hallmark or Sainsbury, you can also buy from a critical grade one. So there are those ones that are not quoted that you can now go to over-the-counter market to get a sort of a mirror price or a shadow price of shares that are being sold there, so that holders of those unquoted shares can also have a sort of an avenue for disposing of their shares. This goes as far as for those people that want to issue, because apart from issuance, another mode of issuance is when you want to do right issue. Right issue is when existing shareholders are being told to come and buy additional shares, and they have to buy it in pari passu to the same price to everybody. And those prices are usually slightly lower than the current trading market price, in order to give those investors a leeway to say that, why am I buying right? Why can't I just go to the open market, to the capital market to buy straight? So that is right issue. All these things are those things that those methods that those people that want to raise money from the capital market can do. You can also raise money through exotic means like mergers and acquisitions. I wrote the first book in Nigeria on that topic in 1991. And when we look at mergers and acquisitions as a method of raising funds, you can see a company that has a lot of money, but it doesn't have defenses to defend itself. You can
All right, we're due for a break now. Sorry for that destruction. We're due for a break now. When we return, our conversation with our guest will continue. Stay with us.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
National Orientation Agency is, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, if you're just joining us, you have no cause to worry. We have you covered. We're looking at the stock market in Nigeria, the investment opportunity, and our guest has been Gbade Geshin, who has been talking about some of the trends and the opportunities inherent in stock market in Nigeria. Gbade Geshin, glad to know you are still there with us. Okay, while we wait for Gbade Geshin to join us, Blessing is here. Glad to have you join us, too.
Good morning.
All right, we've been looking at, the investment in stock market in Nigeria, earlier we had, I guess, we was talking about some of the market trends and the opportunities inherent, Nigerian stock market is regarded to be one of the largest in Africa. In fact, one of the soft after when it comes to investment. There are opportunities for individuals, for companies who wants to raise funds through the capital market or the stock market, and that has been the practice over the years. So with a market capitalization of about 39.1 trillion naira, that's huge. As at the last figure that was released yesterday, you have the top 5 gainers and the top losers. Of course, it's a business where you're bound to gain, you're also bound to lose, depending on how the tide, and how the market is and how you can trade. But it's a terrain for you to be able to work in that terrain. You must have the right understanding. It's not a terrain for novice, it's a terrain for experts. And he advised that for those who want to go into it, maybe first timer, they might need to consult someone, a stockbroker who could be in position to educate them on the right stock, the procedure, the proper documentation, and some of the tips they need to know. These things are quite important because education is key when it comes to investment in stock market.
Yes, it is very important that you need to consult a stockbroker, because they are the ones to hold your hand and guide you and tell you where to put your money. And good enough, the Nigeria Stock Exchange has been doing very well recently. It has done well in the past, but at some point in time, there was sometime around last year, the tradings were mostly ending in bearish, not much bullish trading. But since around June, July, it's been very, very good. Tradings have been very good at the Nigerian stock market. But you need a stockbroker who's seen the trend of the market and then who has studied the way tradings usually are to guide you and say, okay, well, a particular stock may be doing well right now, but that is not to say you put your money in it. And to also guide you on how you can spread the investment. You can buy stocks in one sector and also buy in another sector. So these guidance are very, very important, because some persons just look at it and feel, oh, they can understand stock market reports and put their money where they feel like putting their money, only for them to later on find that the stock that they have bought is not really performing well. So it is necessary, because it's your stockbroker that will help you make certain decisions. And it's even good for some persons because not everybody has the time to monitor things. So what you just do is make the investment. It's a kind of passive investment for some persons, while the stockbroker does all the monitoring, does all the work, and all they do at the end of the day is to collect dividends. So it's something that is worth doing.
Talking about dividends, that's been a controversial issue for those who have their dividends unclaimed, But recently, the Security Exchange Commission, that's the regulatory body now, has unveiled an online platform, whereby you don't have the bottleneck that has been trailing the issue of, getting claims, or the inefficiency that over the years will be resolved now. So what that means is technology is being brought into it, the issue of human interface is being reduced, where you travel or you have to be in Lagos or Abuja, or you have to go to one office or the other. You have to have meetings with people, you know, that won't be necessary. So all you just do is maybe at the comfort of your home, you switch to your phone or your laptop or your computer system, and then you log into that portal, you lodge your complaints and your details and the necessary document, and that makes it easier. So that is going to be unveiled, you know, officially by the end of this month, and I think that will be a game changer, because the issue of unclaimed dividends has been of concern over the years. I've had a friend who has asked us to start complaining over the years about this, about that, this investment. You know, shareholders, you know, it will be a game changer for them. The good thing is when you invest, you know, in a stock and then you're getting shares, or as shareholder, you're getting return for your investment, it gladdens your heart. You know, but in a situation where your investment or your dividends is being trapped over the years, you know, it's discouraging.
It
so
is.
I'm happy technology is being deployed into this now, and that makes it easier. So wherever you are, it's a global village. The world is a global village. So wherever you are, you can make the necessary input and get the right result.
And it will even draw in a lot of younger investors, because a lot of persons who invest in stocks seem to be of the older generation, but you don't find the Gen Zs much of them in it. But if it becomes digitalized, that means from the smartphones, from wherever they are. Those are the kind of things that the younger generation likes. So it's going to draw them in. It means they can monitor whatever their investment is from wherever they are. And then having access to your dividend, which is your profit, it's something that encourages every investor, whether you're an investor on a small scale or in on a large scale. So it will, to a good extent, draw in more investors in the markets. It will boost the confidence of people, because it's not just enough to say I own this amount of shares in XYZ company, but are you getting the dividends? Is this something that you're praying for and you're hoping that one day in your lifetime you get to collect your dividends or be paid your dividends? But if it's something that is now digitalized, it means that it's more transparent. So the transparency will help investor confidence. You have more people of different generations, you catch them, all of them coming into the stock market. So it's a win-win for the stock market if that is done. So all the bottlenecks that you may have to go to your stockbroker's office, you may have to go to the stock exchange, file this paper, and all of that will be cleared off.
I agree with you. You see, I remember while growing up, my father used to talk about stocks, investment in this, investment in that. It was the rave of the moment, you know. Entrepreneurship wasn't that prevalent, unlike now, where the younger generation prefers to invest in, you know, in businesses, small businesses. Entrepreneurship is the rave of the moment. But that does not erase the fact that it's an investment. The capital market or the stock market is an investment window for any individual or group of persons who wants to go into that, you know. And that's a challenge for the Jay-Zs and then the younger generation. So if technology is brought into it, it will be a way to attract their interest. It will be a way to also encourage them to look in that direction for those who feel it's something they have to do. So for me, I think the regulatory body, the Securities Exchange Commission, has a lot of work to do in that regard, so that at least you can attract more investors. Interestingly, people are raising funds through the stock market, and
yes,
it's a viable means of raising funds. And in recent times, a lot of companies, even government, you know, they've been taking advantage of that.
Yeah, it's a quick way and a less expensive way of sourcing for funds, because then everybody becomes a shareholder in it. So all you need to do is to give them dividends at the end of maybe a 6-month period, 1 month period, depending on 1 year rather, depending on how often or how you structured it, that dividends are paid to the shareholders. It's cheaper than you you know, taking up loans.
However, it's important to also state that as much as we are stating it to be very juicy, there are also risk and volatility involved. And that's what our guests will tell us. And that will happen after this short break. Just stay with us.
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, what a good time to talk about the stock market in Nigeria and investment haven for a lot of individuals and group of persons who have been taking advantage of that window to raise money, to make money, and to get dividends for their investment. That's what we're looking at, and we still have our guest here with us. We still have Gbade Geshin here with us. He's a chartered stockbroker, a chartered accountant, and he has been doing justice to the issue of stock investment in Nigeria. Gbade Geshin, glad to know you are still there with us on Early Exchange.
Thank you very much, but I need to make some corrections. Number one, I'm not a stockbroker. I'm a capital market analyst. I've trained stockbrokers over the years for over 12 years, since the early 2000s to early a decade plus later. I've trained bankers, I've trained a lot of professionals. My name is Gbade Geshin Omotayo Gbede. Gbede is my surname.
Thank you so much for that correction.
I'm a fellow of this.
Now let's look at the issue of risk and volatility when it comes to stock market. I would like you to educate our viewers. What are the risks involved when it comes to stock market? Then how do you manage the issue of volatility so that at least you can get productive results when it comes to stock market investment?
Thank you very much. You have hit the nail on the head by mentioning volatility. When you have volatility in the trend of anything, that means that risk is involved. Risk is a situation of uncertainty. When you cannot predict with certainty that this is what is going to happen. And the capital market is awash with a lot of risk. And these risks are so varied because of the fact that apart from the risk in the economy itself, which we call systematic risk that cannot be controlled. Those are the risks that maybe inflation is there, there's nothing the company can do about it. Exchange rate risk is there, there's nothing the company can do about it. You find out that interest risk is there, there's nothing the company can do about it. These are what are called systematic risks. But when you now look at unsystematic risk, those are the risks that are not flowing from the economic system. Those are the risks that the company and the investors can take measures to mitigate. And that is why when you are now looking at pricing, either ordinarily or by algorithm or any other method, that's what we call the beta factor. That's why we now look at what is the extent of riskiness of this investment. Before you make any investment, you have to go and look at the beta factor. To what extent will any variation in all this risk affect the return? Because of the fact that investors are actually trading on a risk-return basis. The higher the risk, the higher the return, although not in every instance. If somebody does a lot of illegal things, because of the risk of getting caught, the return on those illegalities are usually very high. The same thing for people that cut corners. So when you are an investor, you have to look at the risk involved in the organization you are trying to buy their shares. In the first instance, what is their profit history? Have they been making profit or have they been making losses? What is the audited account saying? And you have to carry out a lot of analysis. And that's why you need an analyst to now look for you at that this is the result of this organization. When you analyze the result, you can now see the trend of that organization. You have to look at the liquidity. There are liquidity risks. You have to look at solvency, the fact that that organization may not last well into the future. There's no point going to put your money into an organization that will declare bankruptcy within a year or two, and you've already bought the shares. The incidence is that you will now be left with semi-dead shares. That's why you have to look at the solvency apart from the profitability, even if the profitability is high, you have to look at the solvency. You have to look at their capital market history to now look at how have they been performing in the capital market. Those ones are those things you are going to look at: liquidity, solvency. You have to look at investability. Are the stocks worth investing in? And for you to now look at investability, you have to look at the earning per share. How much is the share earning per share? How much is the share earning? That is the profit divided by number of shares. You can't go for an organization that is earning 50 kobo per share while you are leaving an organization that is earning 2 naira per share. And all this one has to depend upon what is the market price, because a 2 naira earning per share organization may likely have a higher price than the one that is having 50 kobo per share. And that is why you have to relate earning per share to the market price per share. And that one will give you a very important metric that we call the price earning ratio. So company with higher P ratio are likely to be more valuable. And that's why you need support of experts, capital market analysts, stockbrokers, financial advisors, and consultants to advise you when you come to valuation, because you have to value the shares to make sure that you are not even buying the share or entering the market when the price is high. And that is why you have to look at when the market is bullish and when the market is bearish. A bull market is a roaring market where prices are moving up, moving up, moving up. Don't follow the greater fool theory. Greater fool theory establishes that a fool will buy an overvalued share at a very high price, believing that a fool that is greater than him will come back to buy the shares from him. You may not get a greater fool. Therefore, that person will be left with shares that are actually on his hand. So there are a lot of risks, and that risk has to be taken into consideration. For instance, what is the quality of management? Who is at the helm of affairs? Who are their board members? Do they have pedigree? What is their profit history? What is their sales history? What is the stage of their product in the product life cycle? And that is where marketing has to come in. I was at the time the president of Chartered Institute of Marketing. So you have to actually go and meet professionals that are nearly all-rounder that will tell you that the product of this company is going into their maturity stage, and they don't have replacement product, because when they enter into maturity stage, you find out that they are not earning as much as they earn, and the company will start experiencing a fall in prices. You have to look at the nitty-gritty, dissect the operations of the organization to look at their income earning capability. All these things are things that have to be taken into consideration before you buy any stock. Then I've mentioned that you have to look at the market side to look at whether it is bullish or bearish. You try to buy when it is bearish. You don't buy when it's bullish, because when you buy at a lower price, no fully well, the market will make a turn. One day, the market will rally. And when the market rallies, if you want to exit, you can exit at a higher price. Not to buy when it is bullish, and by the time the market is, you are going to buy, you are going to sell, the market is bearish. That is where the state of the economy, the one that I called part of the systematic risk, come in. What is the economy all about? For instance, we are now seeing the effect of exchange rate, and prices are going up, inflation are going up. When you now look at the confluence between inflation and interest rate, you can bring it in and try to see how you will take advantage of the opportunities that are available now, or you tarry a little to see where the economy is going, so that you will be able to make a better decision. In all these instances, you need the support of experts and advisors. When you now identify all the risk, interest rate risk, political risk, those ones are part of systematic risk you don't have control over. But the one you have control over, you have to pick the type of company you want. For instance, are you going for an all-dividend payout company? A company that every profit it makes, it will distribute it as dividend. I think Nestle used to do that. Or you are going to look at a company that will not give 1 naira dividend, but they will invest all the money they make, like the company run by the sage of Omaha, Warren Buffett, that is Berkshire Hathaway. that will always not pay dividend to anybody. If you need dividend, you go and sell part of your share. That is what is called homemade dividend. Homemade dividend. You are making dividend by yourself. And then you now look at the fact that when you are investing, all your information and everything will have to be very, very accurate, because they may want to pay you dividend and they may not be able to remit it to you. That's why SEC has brought in a renewed platform for e-dividend. So that, because over the years in the past, companies used to just sit down on other people's dividend and they use it as a source of spontaneous finance. That is finance that they are not paying any cover on. If those persons come, fine. If they don't come, it becomes part and parcel of the working capital of the organization. So you have to look at the dividend history. As an investor, what is your lineage? Are you leaning towards getting as much money you want, or you are looking for capital gain? Because you also have to look at safety. There's what you call safety first principle. You look at safety to look at whether that investment is safe. Then when you want to buy shares, you also look at the marketability. That is, can you easily offload all those shares? Is the shares really an attraction? Is it a not cake on the market? You may end up having shares that you will not be able to sell. There are shares on the market that are semi-dead. If you buy such shares, or you now get hooked into it, you may be hooked into it for years. You may not be able to sell or dispose. You have to look at safety. You have to look at liquidity, which you also call marketability. When you need your money, can you easily sell all these shares? So then you also have to, like I said, that you have to look at the quality of management, and you have to look at the trend of the price. So when you want to now look at the state of the market, you have to look at the stock market index. Is it rising or is it following? We have the all share index of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. There are other indexes you can look at. That is the average trend, whether the market is upbeat or is actually coming low. Then you have what analysts call advanced decline rule. That is, how many stock advanced today, how many stock advanced decline today. You can now plot a graph, and that one will show you the trend of the market growth, the direction of the market, as to whether the market is coming down or the market is going low. Like I said, buy bearish, sell bullish. That is the most important thing that you have to take into consideration. And when you want to protect yourself against this rule, there's no option market or not well developed in Nigeria today. You can go into option. You can buy option contract to protect your position. That is what you call hedging against risk. Hedging means that you want to protect yourself against risk, so that even if at the end of the day you are not making a gain, definitely you will not make a loss. You can enter into option contracts in order to protect yourself as an investor. It can be a put option, an option to sell, or a call option, an option to buy. So that one is a topic for another day, because option is already is another ball game itself that can only be played by very, very informed and sophisticated investors. But it remains an option of a method of hedging yourself against risk, and those are the risks that you can control. And if you note that the market trend is going down, you must have a stop rule. That stop rule will say that if the shares should fall up to this point, I have to sell. You can give your stockbroker a stop limit order that when the shares reaches a given price level, you have to sell. And that's why a lot of people got into trouble during the top margin loan at the turn of the decade, like the turn of last decade, that actually bankrupted a lot of people and put several banks when there was global financial meltdown. You must know when to sell, when to exit, and you must know when to wait. Even if you are holding the shares and prices are rising, every lala that goes up must definitely come.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Okay, I don't think he can hear me, but thank you very much for your submissions on the show today. That's how we wrap up that segment. We're going to quick break and then return to another aspect of stock market investment. If you are an intending investor, already an investor, it is time for you to sit tight. More information will come your way after this time.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
National Orientation Agency is, as far as I'm concerned, very ideal and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Thanks for staying tuned to Early Exchange, and stock market investment is what we're looking at today. So let's take a deeper now, looking at initial public offerings. You know, sometimes you watch some adverts and you hear, oh, there's an initial public offering from this company, from that company, or you get to see that on the pages of the newspaper. What does it mean? This is what we'll be looking at right now, as we'll be speaking with Ambrose Omodion, who is a stock market analyst that is joining us virtually on the show this morning. Good morning, Ambrose.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining us on Early Exchange. All right, so what...
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, so when we see, maybe on the pages of a newspaper or online, you see that there will be an initial public offering, or you get to hear information like that via news or whatever medium. What does it mean, initial public offering, and what are the stages to it?
Yeah, when it comes to equity investments, there are two types of markets that exist in one. We have the secondary market and the primary market. Then the primary market is talk of the initial public offer, rights issue, private placement. That means at this point, the money is going direct to the issuer. That means, for example, now if Ampus consultant want to raise funds, and I come to the market for initial public offer, the fund is coming straight to the company for expansion, or to acquire more equipment. But when it comes to secondary trading, that's the one who buy on the exchange that you trade already existing shareholders selling. That one, the fund is not going to work to the company. But the performance of the company will influence the price of those stocks on exchange. But initial public offer is mainly what to raise funds for expansion and for what to direct the public to invest in them. That is how the difference between the secondary market and the primary market. Out of the primary market, that's where I have what the initial public offer, rights issue, private placement, and others. Offer for sale, they are all the primary market activity. Yeah. Are you there?
At least to educate our viewers.
Hello?
Ambrose, if you can hear me, yeah. I would like you to talk about some of the rules guiding, the listing of stock, and for our viewers to be able to understand the processes involved, if you can hear me.
Yeah, the listing of stock is really for the company that have that want to come to the exchange. That is why the exchange is going to have to kind of encourage company to list. You can be a public company, but we are not listed. It's a choice of the company to be listed on the exchange. That means the company wants to become more transparent and also want to have access to the global world and so Nigeria financial market generally. Yes, it's time to come to exchange for listing. That also boosts the kind of what I call the transparency of the company, and then they can now relate to the public. But it's not company that you must be listed. But when you listed, there are other benefits like raising fund, doing rights issue, and all those stuff, which you might do also on the if you are not listed. But the difference is that if you are listed, you have access to access to fund easily because you're a listed company. Bank can trust you better, that you have the capacity because you are listed. These are the benefits of that. Is the difference that you operate the exchange with your 5 years or 3 years financials, then assess you which sector you are likely to list, due to the nature of your service or your product, they will tell you where to list. And at the same time, when you are listing, you have the numbers of shares that you want to list. Either we are coming through introduction or we are coming through the public offer that was just mentioned earlier. When you come to introduction, you already existing company, you now have a share that you want to list by introduction, you now come to the market through a store broker that will introduce you, project all your materials. Like I said, your 3 years or 5 years account will be there. Then also you have the capacity also to bring what we call post listing requirements. Not listing. After listing, there are things you need to follow up in terms of what bring your quarter results, your final results, and also carry your shareholders along to know what you are doing in the company. These are the process for listing.
Hello, Ambrose. So I'm asking.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not hearing you. Hello, so I'm not hearing you. Can you speak up, or is it network there? I'm not hearing you.
If you can hear me clearly, I'm
Better
asking
now. Better now.
What factors can lead to the success of the IPO launched or made by a company?
The success, one point for the success is that is the public perception to the company. If the company has been seen as a company that has value, you will see, and also the state of the economy also determine. If the period that they will have a downturn in the economy and we are coming up with offer, we expect to have what low subscription. Or if you are coming to the market, the period, so you need to understand the timing also when you are coming for public offer. It's also the time if we're in a boom, people have to then actually buy more. But for example, now let's say this current time, we're seeing that most of the companies are doing little public offers, or let me say listing by introduction. We're not seeing more public offer in the market because one, the economy is not reflecting that now because people earnings has really dropped. And for you to encourage people to buy, it is already existing one that will pay. But for those that are working, that the inflation have also eaten into their finance, investing now also will not be like their secondary, it will not be their primary need. But if you don't want to wait, they want to invest little, and that's going to affect what, unless you have what we call an issuing house that's ready to take up your offer, then for you, that is another one. But if you are dependent on the public alone, it is when we have a boom. Also, the economy is stable. We are seeing economic prosperity, or economy is progressing. That you can see more people go buy into your offer. Like I said earlier, the nature of service, the history, and also where we are going and where we are coming from. It will help you. But I will tell you, it is the economy situation that will determine how far, or like I just said again, you must have an off-taker, really issue house that will take in case there's under subscription. But when the economy is doing well, and the company is well known, and your product or services is what they think that is sustainable, with the history they have seen where you have operated before you come to the offer. Even yes, my social board tell you generally the economy situation will also determine how successful the offer will be.
All right, Ambrose, according to record, the IPO market in Nigeria recorded the highest boom between 2007 and 2008. What would be your assessment of the IPO market in recent times, the performance of that market in recent time? I would like to have your assessment.
If you look at the current time, I will tell you that the primary market activity in terms of public offer is not as high as compared to the period you mentioned. The period mentioned, we are seeing margin loan in 2007, 2008, and also there was kind of a bubble in the, there was kind of a, how will I put now, share price was up, people are making money after 2006 consolidation of the banks. Then so you consider the bank in 2006. Then it now flew toward 2007 because there was liquidity in the system that also impacted that period of what offer. That was the highest offer I will tell you, because all the banks were coming to the market to raise for because of what there was liquidity in the system, because banks just capitalized for that. We see all of them coming to the market. But since then, we see that people that lost money also because of the meltdown are not paying market as expected. That's also a contribute to what you are seeing today. But do they understand, the capital market are taking the market now to big weight, and they are run by. But because also that mentality they had at the early time, because of loss they made, they are not playing fully in the market. But recently, we are seeing gradual process coming back. I believe that we can get it right in 2024 with the policy of this government. But for now, the rate is very, very low, and people are not participating more because of what the economy is not so reflecting progress or prosperity right now. But when we see a good economic policy that's coming up, that's a change, or the economic find direction, that will encourage the people investing. But I tell you, you must save first before you invest.
Okay, for an investor, is it a very risky venture to put your money in an IPO? Because this, as far as trading and the stock market is concerned for that particular company, they have no history. So it's like a newbie. You don't know how they're going to do, how they're going to perform. Is it a risky venture, or would you say it's more risky to invest in an IPO than in already trading companies?
Yeah, actually, if I say that, I'm not cascading the primary market at IPO, but because it's a new company, yeah, no history. But before they come to the market, they have given us either performance and focus where they are going. It can guide you. But because the already existing ones has more potential, because you have seen the history of their performance, but most investors want to put money in IPO because IPO most times are cheaper than what you are seeing what on the floor. That's the attraction in IPO. Because once the company start performing, the price will start responding to what to performance of the company start going up. But already the one on the market, you are sure of dividend and price will go up. But for that IPO, you want to play with what with calculated risk, they want to play with caution, and that's why doing IPO, unless the company has a lot of potential that investors have seen, they're not diving fully, but if not, they put it with caution. Yeah.
All right. There are some stakeholders who have been clamoring for the introduction of technology, having what we call electronic IPO. What impact do you think this will have on tradings of the market if technology is being brought into this kind of innovation is being introduced into the IPO market where you have electronic IPOs? What impact will that be?
For me, it's a welcome development. We have seen the impact already. Let's start from what MTN did when they did their, the offer for sale, like I've said, or recently. They didn't print any form for you to pay. It was online. And also, technology also is targeting the modern youth. I believe that if you want to attract women and more use technology, they have access from every standpoint. For me, it's a welcome development, and that also boosts IPO. I think it's a welcome development, and I would say it's a good one for NSC to have adopted that. I will see more companies doing that going to the future. Technology is really a good one to boost performance of IPO going to the future. But like I said, economy has a major factor in what investing, because that's why today now we're seeing that there's kind of disconnection between what is happening on the exchange and the economy, because we have seen the positive numbers from companies listed. The economy is giving us increasing the headwinds. Every day, seeing the macroeconomic data going to the negative side. But still, market is doing well. It's a matter of time. That is why you look at the economy and also the market, because every sector of the economy is present in the market. Actually, when you're investing, you also have to be very careful. But I tell you, with technology, it's a boost forward for IPO market or primary market activities.
All right, the IPO market in Nigeria has been relatively active over the years, but what are the challenges facing the markets?
For me, the challenge in the market now is like, I would say that we have less active companies on the exchange. Even those that are listed, some of them are not active. And if you compare the numbers of equity on the exchange to other mature economy, we are still just starting. We need more listing to deep the market and also create more room for investors to invest different of the companies. For me, this challenge is because our market is not deep, and why we're encouraging more IPO. But that was it. It's also knowledge is key. That means we need to do more education. The SEC, the regulators, SEC, NGS, and more, and other market operators. I think they're all doing education. We need to, increase that commitment to do more education to attract more Nigeria. Because what I say so is that if you depend on foreign investors, on your economy, on your market becomes so volatile. Like the first week I had in about volatility. When you see foreign investor coming to any economy, fine, they might have good intention, but any foreign investor, a portfolio investor, not the right investor, they are coming to make money. Any small thing they have, you put your market in a risk of going up and down. But when you see Nigerians participating in their own market because they understand the terrain, they can invest with long-term mind. And also, even when you can look at what happened during the election, even to be before, where the foreign investors are in Nigeria, as they did previously, the markets have gone into red. But because they left 2020 because of the COVID-19 news that came to Nigeria, they see our market was stable because we have more Nigerians retail investor, more Nigerians institutional investor. That gives market stability. And for almost 4 years now, I've seen a stable market. For me, it's a good one. That is why I said it is all about the structure of the market.
All right, looking at the recent figures, the IPO market has been recording unimpressive, figures or results. What kind of intervention or innovation are you expecting from the regulatory authority to ensure that you promote active participation in the IPO market?
Yeah, like I just said, it's more creating awareness, education, because if you want to venture into anything, you need to understand what you are doing. That means you need to give the public education of how importance of savings and also investing. That is where you can encourage more. But for companies that are doing well on the exchange in terms of earnings, mention or performance, for the IPOs, they have not seen their number to say they are performing because they are just coming to the market. The ones who can access with their earnings are already listed. For IPOs, they are just telling us figures and forecasts. We can't say they are performing because they are just coming. No, we want to see how far they could give us better number going to the future. We cannot appraise them. But for those that are already listed, we have seen their number either for 5 years, for 6 years, for 10 years. You have seen their number even for 2 years. You have seen their quarterly and full year. You can forecast easily. But we have seen that, in the last 4 years, we have seen that Nigerian companies have done well. Corporate Nigerians have really shown that, yes, they are competent. For me, I say kudos to all corporate Nigerians for what they have done on the exchange because their earnings have supported the dividend payout. That's why our market has been up for 4 years because of what impressive performance of listed companies on the exchange. And that's why I said we can turn Nigeria to a corporate Nigeria and employ this corporate managers to come manage Nigeria. I think it will be better because if they are surviving in this environment, because good number, it tells that they have something to deliver. For me, the numbers are good and also encourage what investors because that will support.
Okay, so let's look at factors that an investor should consider when evaluating an IPO. Agree that the IPOs are new, the companies are listing for the first time or they're new in the stock market, but of course they've been in existence even before they listed. So they must have had some track record that investors can look at and evaluate. So there's a connection issue from the end of our analyst this morning, but we'll get back with him as soon as connection is stable. But Femi, assuming you want to put in your money in a company that is just listing, what are some of the things you would look at?
Well, you have to look at the history of that company. Talking about the history, you have to look at the antecedent of the company because some companies, you have to understand their history to be able to invest in that. Also, you look at the board or the management, the persona or the personalities of people handling it. What have they done in the past? This can tell you how healthy it's going to be for you to invest or the risk involved when you're going to invest in that kind of IPO. It's also important for you to also do your research very well, because knowledge is key when it comes to the issue of investment. The IPO market in Nigeria has been, nosediving in recent times. The highest boom you had was between 2007 and 2008, and eventually a lot of activities took place after that. Then you had COVID and a lot of things happened. But now the level of participation in that market has not been, viable because of the constraining factors, the business environment. And so that's why it's critical for anybody who wants to be a player in that sector to do your research very well. So by the history of that company, what have they done in the past? Or are they, what when it comes to giving dividends, what has been their record or history, sense of responsibility, you look
but
at
if they're just listing,
Yeah.
it's possible they've not really had shareholders,
Yeah.
except if they've had maybe some at different levels, but now they're going public. So the information, how easy is it for investors to come by some information? Because some companies enlist, and that's the first time you hear about them. They've not actually been, or information about them has not actually been in the public domain. So how then can you make your judgments?
But part of what you can do is, there are stakeholders in the industry who somehow, but if you widen your research, you will get one or two persons who must have had something to do with the company. Even if the information is not available publicly, there are people you can contact, there are players who have been in that industry for years, so who can talk to one or two persons and get to one or two persons for you to extract information. It's about the seriousness you attach to it because money is involved, investment is involved. So you don't have to excuse it because the information is not available there publicly. Then you excuse it because it's a risk which you will eventually pay for. So whatever is going to take you time to get whatever you need, do it so that at least you'll be able to get information about the economy because it's very essential. By the antecedent, you can know what a how you of the days what happens during the day, so it's easier for you to tell or predict what might likely happen.
Yeah, and I see a trend too sometimes when some companies are preparing to go public, though at the time they do this, it's not stated that they're preparing to go public. You find that they declare their annual profits, they're declaring their earnings and all of that. Sometimes you're wondering, what is my business? I'm not in that company. So why do they constantly declare profit? But you will see that it's for people to know that they're solid and business is going on well. And that happens a lot in the financial sector. Banks oftentimes tell you they declare this profit, they exceeded even the projection. And at times you're wondering, like I said, what is the business of other persons? But it's just for you to know, have this information. So if for an investor, these are things that people should check out. You know, when a company regularly reviews their profits and what they make, it's for you to keep track of them, and these are things that you can find on the pages of newspaper, you can find in the news, you can find, for some companies, they have updated website where you can actually find these things. They are pointers to how healthy the company is, and the kind of business that they do too is one that you should check out. And you know, at times when there's a new management in a company and you find that for already trading, companies are already trading, sometimes the shares fall or it rises. You know, from the layman perspective, you keep wondering, it's just the Oga at the top that has been changed now. What is it? What has that got to do? But then you talked about the quality of the management, the persona of those who are in charge. It has a whole lot to do. These are some of the things that could actually be the factors that investors evaluate and say, okay, there's an initial public offering. I think I can put my money there and maybe go to sleep, but not fully asleep, while you watch how things work out there. All right, we'll take a quick break, return to talk some more. It's the Early Exchange. Stay with us.
Hi, my name is Felabration, and you are on to Souk News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is Souk News.
Shout out to Souk News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souk News. Here's the Souk News who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souk News. Thank you very much.
If you want to advertise your product, just...
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
National Orientation Agency is, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, it's the Early Exchange, and our focus has been the stock market. You know, we've been talking about different aspects of investment, the trends when it comes to stock market. Earlier, we had a conversation looking at IPO. You know, the performance of that market has been on record that you had a boom between 2007 and 2008. And now we're being joined by another specialist. We're going to look at any reports and corporate performance. And we're being joined by Onyemike Ugbeche, a fellow of Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning.
Thank you very much.
So I would like us to start with a general overview of the stock market before we go to earnings. Now, I would like you to talk about some of the trends and the opportunities for investment as far as the stock market is concerned in Nigeria. Let's start with that as an introduction.
Yeah.
Ogbeche, if you can hear me, I'm asking us to start this discussion by looking at some of the trends and investment opportunities in the market, if you can hear me.
Yes. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Okay, can you please unmute your device so that... all right, please go ahead now. We can hear you clearly.
Okay. Yeah, so we had a few hiccups in 2009, 2010, and we are glad that we have been able to overcome such difficult times, which was actually a global trend at that time. But apart from that, our Nigerian stock market has been doing very well, fantastically well, to the extent that the growth rate in our market is ranked as #2 in the world. And you can imagine such a situation. So looking at it from that angle, for any investor that must have entered the market between 2012 and now, have made about 500% of his investment. And that's a remarkable feat for any investor who is operating in our market. So I believe going forward, based on the situation around the world and our current exchange rate, a lot of investors are already eyeing our market, and we believe they will do very well in terms of performance between now and the next 2 years at least.
Okay, so the market is quite stable right now, but for investors, how do they know, or those who are intending to put their money in there, how would they know that the market is doing well, apart from what they see in the stock market, interpreting it? So the companies, various companies that are enlisted in the stock market, their reports, how do investors come by these reports, and how can they interpret what the report is saying to know, okay, this is the company that I've invested money in, this is what it is making, so that means that at the end of maybe the year, I should be smiling because I would receive lots of dividend?
Yes, if you look carefully, you will find out that most of the national dailies, but I will start from that, most of the national dailies on a daily basis report give stock market report that people are supposed to be aligning with to do their investment decision. Secondly, some of our electronic media stations, particularly your own channels and a few others, have a segment designated for stock market report, and it gives you a summary of performance of companies for the period in question. And that is also a method that which the regulators have designed it in such a way that people can get information about the market, what performance the companies are recording. And we also find out that for the stock exchange, there's also a segment of the stock exchange website where you can get information on a daily basis of reports that have been churned out by the corporate organizations, quoted companies in the stock exchange. And lastly, some stockbroking firms have their own website where all these reports are published for the information of the viewing public. And so through that means, you are able to get information regarding all these companies and how well they are doing. In terms of analysis, you know, not everybody's knowledgeable or very experienced in terms of analysis. So people are encouraged to register with stockbroking firms from where information can be given to them by experienced hands and advice, as the case may be.
All right, looking at the recent figures released about the top gainers, I would like you to talk about some of the best stocks, you know, for anybody thinking of investing in that. What are the viable stocks they can put into consideration?
Yeah, there are quite some of them. You see, having to invest in the stock market has two primary considerations. And that is why you need to talk to a registered stockbroker who will give you more information. If certain considerations are given before an advice is given you, particularly your age, your level of risk tolerance, as well as your understanding of the market. And these are things that people will have to put at the back of their mind in taking a decision. A lot of people just dabble into the market without knowing the nitty-gritty of the market. And that is why sometimes they have their fingers burnt. But we encourage everybody, every investor, to look inwards by studying the market trend, either by reading or consulting your stockbroker. But in the main, your risk tolerance determines what you need to invest in. If you are at the age of 20, 25, and you are investing in the market, you are encouraged to have a mixture of new entrants, high-risk stocks, and the rest of them. And if as you grow older, your appetite for cash becomes heavier. And as it becomes heavier, it therefore means that you'll be looking at those stocks that will give you high dividend yield at the end of the period. And as such, you can invest in such organizations. Secondly, there are some stocks that we encourage people to invest in, particularly banking stocks that are doing very well in this current dispensation. And some of the others are the technology stocks. So the likes of GT Bank, Zenith Bank, Access Bank, UBA, and some others are investable areas for any would-be investor. And the likes of MTN, dividend. Plus Nestle and some other companies like Nigerian breweries that will always give in dividend. Then that does not remove us from remembering the fact that there is one wholly Nigerian company that is a group of companies that are doing well. That's the Dangote Group. These are companies that you can invest in and smile home at the end of the year.
Okay, let me take you back to earnings reports. So what are some of the things that any report is supposed to include? And the second part of my question is this: how do you authenticate an earning report? There have been instances where it was said that some companies were actually over-declaring, and some companies too, when they're even going towards a bankruptcy, do not actually reflect that in their reports.
Yes, that is the more reason why we usually will look at companies clearly before we dabble into them. You need to look at the management structure of the organization, the board of directors, how properly constituted are they, and you find out also that the Securities and Exchange Commission, in setting up the minimum operating standard as well as the stock exchange, also at board level, there must be an independent non-executive director to help modulate the excesses of executive directors or directors who have direct interest in such positions. To go into your question, the earning reports, the key thing that you look at actually is the revenue of the company, the gross, the profit before tax. Then you look at other inputs into it, particularly administrative costs and some other extraordinary income or losses that may have occurred in organizations. And after looking at all that, then you now look at the yield, the dividend yield that comes to you, comes to the shareholder at the end of the day, and the dividend payable. And companies are not discouraged lightly from declaring dividend out of losses. And so when you find a company not doing well and declaring large dividend, it shows that's a signal, a red flag, and you must run away from such organization. And when you are in doubt, you consult your stockbroker.
All right. I would like you to educate us on what should constitute the details of an ideal annual report. What are the details or specifics that should be there to ensure that it will guide investors? Talk to us about these details of annual reports.
Yes, you know, in any given report, in some cases, the financial statement does not specify as per the statistics that goes with the earnings report. And you know that there's what they call the price earning ratio of an organization. That's the price to the earnings of the company as it stands. We'll also have the yield, the dividend yield, and we'll also have other considerations that you will have to look into in determining whether the earnings report is sound enough or otherwise. So in the main, the price earning ratio and the dividend yield is key in determining the performance of the company.
So what is the role of the Nigerian Stock Exchange in earning reports of companies? Does it have a role in this?
Not necessarily. The stock exchange is a market, though self-regulated, and it has its own minimum operating standard for every operator in the market and every issuer in the market. However, it is a platform. Since they have provided the platform, it is now left for the investor and the issuer to do the needful. And what do I mean by that? The job of the exchange is to make provision for you to operate in the market. And they also tell you what time to present your reports. For example, they can say to you, if after 3 months of the financial year end, your result is not published, then you may be placed on some form of suspension pending when you bring it in. And if you are not able to bring it in, you must give information. in advance to the investing public why it is not ready. However, whether you make a loss or profit, or you are not really operating, the key thing that the exchange needs to get from you is to give them updated information concerning your operations. And apart from that, any other thing regarding profit, loss, or whatever, is not, you cannot hold the stock exchange accountable, and they cannot come to the company to ask for such information.
All right, from your experience, what do you think could be the likely impact of any reports on prices of stocks? If that is something to go by, what might likely be the impact on prices of stocks?
Yes, it has a direct relationship. Anybody who, for example, you are a trader, give an example of a petty trader now. And the petty trader deals in making bean buns, that's akara, and local balance. If you come to the akara woman or man and you buy akara and it's too peppery, the next thing that happens is that you will not go back to such a person. And so it is in the stock market. If your performance is not good, you do not expect people to come and patronize you. And if people are not patronizing you, it means that your stock is not flowing or it's not liquid enough for the market. And when that happens, it therefore means that the demand for your stock will no longer be there. There will be reduced demand. And when there's reduced demand, it will directly affect the pricing of your stock. And that's the cycle it goes.
So, can an investor by themselves use an annual report to make decision, or would they need the help of a stockbroker or a stock market analyst, for instance? Is this something that one can, by themselves, make judgment of looking at the annual report of any company?
Yes, an investor who is knowledgeable, when I mean knowledgeable, who has basic knowledge of accounting, will always do his analysis and get the very best of results. However, what they do normally is that when they do their analysis, they form an opinion and they bounce it out with an average operator in the market, that's a stockbroker, who now gives a confirmation, puts a seal on on what they have researched in, and it goes ahead with investment or divestment, as the case may be. So, if the message here is, if you are in doubt, please consult your stockbroker. He will give you an advice. But mark you, it's not all the advice of the stockbroker that must be taken as the finality.
All right. In the past, we used to hear of doctored reports, I don't know if you have more of that in recent times. Maybe you can tell us from experience. And then if instances like this happened, what should an investor do, or what should be the likely solution to this kind of situation?
Yes. Doctored reports are no longer very common in Nigeria. The reason is that this time around, the government regulator, that is Securities and Exchange Commission, frowns very, very seriously at that. And one thing that you need to know is this. Now, when you doctor the report, as a director of the organization, you will be held liable for giving wrong information. And if you give wrong information and it has to impact negatively on the investor, ultimately you will be caught. The law will catch up with you. There's certain punishment that goes with it. So in our Nigerian system, as we operate currently, the issue of doctor report is no longer as prominent as it used to be in the past.
All right, let's look at corporate performance. How does it affect stock market investments, the corporate performance of a company?
Yes, the corporate performance of companies, like I mentioned earlier, is supposed to come on a regular basis. Corporate performance report comes in on a quarterly basis. First quarter, second, third, and the final year of audited report. By standards, they are supposed to be presented to the stock exchange, to the investing public through the stock exchange. And when these reports come in, it is available for every investor to have access to it. And if for any reason you are not able to present it, then you must give an explanation. To go into your question, when the corporate reports come, they come handy. And when they come handy, it means that you must do your analysis based on this corporate report and form an opinion. So corporate report issuance is a compulsory thing as an investor or an issuer in our market.
Okay, as a follow-up to that, I would like you to talk about some of the specifics an investor should look for in a kind of corporate reports or to measure corporate performance. What are the details an investor needs to look for in that kind of report to ascertain the level of corporate performance and to also determine if to invest or not?
Yes, for an average investor in the market, if you're able to lay hands on a corporate report, which is usually very comprehensive, of a minimum of 45 or 47 pages, minimum. Some can even number up to 200. For an average investor, I will encourage that the first thing to look into is not the profit and loss account or the balance sheet, because these are two key things that you need to look at ultimately. However, what you need to read and study very well is the director's report, because it is compulsory for the directors to give a comprehensive report of performance in the organization. That is very important. Though it is bulky, but it's advisable that you go through it. Then after that, you go to study the profit report, the performance. After you have done that, you will find out how the company has done in terms of the revenue, and you determine what the profit has come after deducting the operational cost. Once you determine that, you look into areas that technical, that is extraordinary income. Upon looking at that, it will determine for you or show you exactly where the company is going. Have they disposed of some key assets without you knowing? You need to find out. And when they dispose of key assets, it must be at fair value. It is for a fair value. What of the income? Has it come in? And after determining that, the next level will now be comparatives between the previous year and the current year. Is it an improvement? If it's an improvement, by what percentage has it improved? And if you determine that, you now say, okay, what is the profit level? Have they been able to give me a very good profit for this period in question? If they have, what is the payout to the shareholders, that's the owners of the company? The payout to the owners of the company will now determine how much you get as an individual on a pro rata basis. And you can now, at the same time, determine the dividend per share. Remember also that in doing all that, you as an investor is supposed to be benchmarking this return, the dividend yield or the return you get in terms of dividend against the inflationary rate in the economy. If it is far apart from each other, it therefore means that investment may not be giving you the right returns. Based on that, you can take a fair decision on your own, or you consult your advisor.
All right, now you mentioned dividend. Let's talk about dividend. What is the period of time for dividend to be paid out? Does it have to be maybe after 6 months, yearly? And why is it that it takes quite a while for some investors to get dividend paid to them? For some, they've invested after maybe a year, even two, they're still finding it hard to receive dividend.
Okay, there are a few technical things that go with payment of dividend. To me, as an operator in the market, I've been able to find out that payment of dividend has become even faster and more efficient compared to the past. These days, when the dividend is declared, when companies who are doing well declare a dividend these days is paid on the day the annual general meeting is holding. Immediately after the annual general meeting, people are expected to get their alerts showing that dividend has been paid. That's the vogue now. And it is going to continue because technology has improved on a lot of things in the market. It is no longer the issue of you having to post warrants to people, sometimes getting lost in transit, and some other times being hijacked by unscrupulous elements in the system. That has been eliminated. So the only thing that can delay your dividend as a new investor is the fact that there are a few technical things that needs to be done at the back end by the investment advisor or the stockbroker, as the case may be. As soon as as soon as you invest, they are supposed to obtain what they call your sample of your signature and forward same to the registrar so that they can adopt your signature in their system. And that is followed closely by the submission of what they call e-dividend mandate form, which can be submitted through your stockbroker or your bank. That is normally submitted through the NBISS. So that is the system that is being operated now. As soon as you buy shares, ensure that the transfer form is completed on your behalf and submitted to the registrar to take record of your signature, sample of your signature. Then the next thing is to submit your e-dividend mandate. And once that is done, the registrar captures all that, you will get your dividend as when due.
The Security and Exchange Commission is launching what we call an e-dividend portal to curb the issue of unclaimed dividends. Are you optimistic this will go a long way to solve this age-long problem?
Yes, the Security and Exchange Commission has done very well in this area. They have done very well. However, you know, in an economy of this nature, there could be some element of sabotage on the part of the real operators, maybe by way of wanting to deny people early receipt of their dividends. But I believe that SEC has done what it needs to do in that wise. And maybe what to do is to ensure that once an e-dividend form is submitted and the person's BVN is stated clearly, the registrar should accept it as is and pay such dividend into the account of the requisite shareholders. And once that is done, I think all these issues of unclaimed dividend will be a thing of the past. There will still be some elements of outstanding dividends because as things go, there could be the death of a shareholder. And once there's a death of a shareholder, it tends to affect the continuous payment of such dividend into the account or any disability, as the case may be.
All right, let's look at the performance of the different companies at the stock market. It seems like perform more or have more people invest in them than other sectors. What would be the reason for this?
Come again, I didn't hear you very clearly at the initial instance. Can you come again with your question?
Okay, my question is this. Some companies in certain sectors seem to be performing very well than others in some in other sectors. We find that companies in sectors such as telecommunication, the finance sector, and oil and gas seem to be dominating the stock market. Why is this so?
Yeah, it's a simple issue. When a thing is doing very well in terms of performance, in terms of dividend payout, people tend to gravitate towards that direction. And the telecommunication industry is under the IT sector. The IT sector is doing very well all over the world. In fact, they control the market even in the US and some other advanced economies. So you expect things like that to happen even in Nigeria. So for any investor who sees such stocks, he goes straight for them, no matter the quantity, because some of them are even highly priced. But people go even place order for 5 units of such stocks because they want to identify, because they know they will do well ultimately. For the ones in its finance sector, that's the banking sector, some of them are doing quite very well, like I mentioned some earlier. But some of them are not doing very well. And you can always explain it. Maybe the management structure is not properly in place, or maybe the funds available for working capital is not enough for them, or they may have done wrong investment that may have affected their performance in the past. So these are certain considerations that make people gravitate towards the ones that are doing very well, the likes of GT, Zenith, UBA, Access Bank, and a few others. And of late, Fidelity Bank. These ones are doing quite well. Then for the ones operating under the oil and gas sector, they are doing quite well. But you find out also that there's some level of volatility on the kind of business they are doing, based on the fact that prices keep changing on a regular basis, and these people are not able to meet up with purchases of inputs. When I mean input, import of petroleum products, which is also tied to exchange rate. So some in the first quarter of this year, a lot of them posted losses. So a lot of people are a bit more cautious in dealing with such stocks. But by and large, once the economy stabilizes, they will do very well. I mean the oil and gas stocks.
All right, at this point, we have to wrap up this conversation, and we must thank you for your time and your submissions. You know, you've extensively talked about the investment, the trends, you know, in the stock market, talking about some of the sensitive areas, and we must appreciate you for your time. Thank you for spending time with us on Early Exchange.
Thank you so very much.
All right, Blessing. It's looking like we've been in classes, you know, series of
lectures.
So
been in stock market investment class. Yeah. We've had lesson 101 up to 104. 4, 5, 7. Yes. So
you have to graduate.
Okay. I was thinking that we'll do more classes so that we
Master
can be really
classes.
really grounded, because it has to do with money, and it's something you need to understand a whole lot. But from what we've done today, I think everybody knows what to do. The understanding you've gotten, you can make use of that, but you also need to be guided by a stockbroker, an expert in this field, so that you know exactly what you're doing for sure.
So let me ask you, are you thinking of investing soon with this education and the master class?
Of course. There's nothing ever wrong with having multiple streams of income, and you can do that passively. You can be a passive investor. You're not really in the market doing the trading yourself. So that's why you need your broker.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
You can do the same. I am Blessing AJ, and that's been the show today. Business Insight comes up at 10 a.m. Thank you for joining us. We ask that you stay with Sick News the rest of your day.
The best of analysis and the best of interpretation when it comes to the opportunities available in the stock market is now left for you to do justice to that. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.